Good afternoon, everyone. This is Joe Papano from FiberLink Communications. Thanks for joining us today. A couple of ground rules first before we dive in. The slides will be available, so everyone's going to receive an email in about an hour that'll have a link to a URL where you can get today's slides, and we will also be publishing the recorded version of this webinar to that same link probably sometime tomorrow. So it usually takes a little bit of time to get those prepared. What we're going to cover today is actually, I think, the third or fourth time that we've actually presented this particular webinar about enabling iPhones and iPads in the enterprise. And I think the first time we did it was about a year ago. And I guess what to me is most fascinating is that each one, we've seen the interest level get higher and higher in terms of the number of folks who register and attend. So I think that's probably a good thing for the industry. It's certainly a good thing for Donna and I, and it's obviously a good thing for Apple. And I think, for those of you who didn't hear, Apple announced their quarterly results yesterday, I believe. And I thought I would just throw a couple of highlights at you. So last quarter, they sold over 20 million iPhones. They're currently selling iPhones through 220 carriers in 105 countries. And their shipments in this quarter. So pretty amazing stat. And the other thing that was significant is they passed Nokia in terms of the number of smartphones shipped. So, a relatively new entrant to the market who's now past kind of the incumbent leader. And, if that weren't enough, that was all iPhone related. They also shipped 9.25 million iPads. So it was a great quarter for them. And obviously, that's one of the reasons why we're all here today and why this particular webinar is probably more relevant today than it was a year ago when we first did it. So we've got Donna Lima from our customer engineering team here today, and she's going to present on how to enable iPhones and iPads in the enterprise, essentially how to enable them and secure them. As usual, we're going to run a couple of polls during the webinar. And then we'll do a quick tour of MAS 360, real quick, and then we'll do a little bit of Q&A at the end. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Donna. Donna, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Joe. Hi, everybody. So first we wanted to go over the agenda for today's presentation. So we're going to talk about how to embrace the iPhone and iPad opportunity in your business today. We'll go over some best practices for mobile device management. What are the existing tools out there that are available to start managing these iPhones and iPads today for the IT folks, as well as we'll go over some of what's to come with iOS 5 this fall from Apple.
So what we're going to do right now is we're going to open our first poll up, and what we are really looking for or want to know, and hopefully we'll share with you, is what is it at your company that's driving the adoption of iOS devices? Is an iPhone an option for people that are picking a device that the corporation provides? So here at FiberLink, you can have your choice of just about any type of mobile device on the market, and we support that. Is it you want people to bring their own personal devices in? Is it you're deploying iPhones, or is it you're deploying some type of custom line of business app to your devices and you want to enable that? So poll's just about getting finished here, and I will share the results with you right now. So not a big surprise. This is certainly what we see in our market as well, which is there's a huge interest in enabling the use of employee-owned devices, in this case iPhones and iPads, and that's great information to have.
Great. So 2011 is the year businesses are confronting a mobile device challenge. So users are bringing in their own devices into the enterprise, and we have to be ready for that. iPhones and Androids are valid options, and they're on the rise, which have surpassed the end-user capabilities of the traditional BlackBerry and Windows mobile devices. So today we're seeing more people coming in with their own iPads, their own iPhones, and we need to be ready for that in the IT staff as well. And then amazingly enough, the business does benefit from this. From a study, we've shown that employees work 10 to 20% more night and weekend hours when they're given a corporate access device. And then also, with the iPhone plan, if they're bringing in their own device, that's really a cost savings for your company, where the employee owns the device and they're also paying for that plan as well, so you can save there as well.
Yeah, and we're gonna open up our second poll here in a second, but just kind of to follow up on that, what's surprising here is that companies really aren't doing this, meaning enabling employee-owned devices to save money. We asked that in a couple of previous webinars, and really it has much more to do with giving employees choice of the device that they think is the best fit for them and will make them the most productive. So I'm going to open up the second poll, and I'm going to ask folks to not be shy if your answer is D. What we're really looking for here is, so how are you doing this today? There's got to be iPhones and iPads walking the hallway in your company. So what are you doing today, if anything? If you're using a third-party MDM solution, we hope it's MAS 360, but we realize we're not alone in the market. Hang on a second here, folks, while we're tabulating the responses. And I will share that with you in just a couple of seconds.
So what are some of the best practices when employees are bringing in their own devices and just managing mobile devices overall? So you need to have a realistic policy for 2011. You have to assume that your employees are going to be bringing in their own devices, and you need to be prepared for that. So what does that mean? Support multiple device platforms and allow personal devices. So whether it's an iPhone, an Android, a BlackBerry, you need to be ready for whatever might be out there in your Exchange environment now. It's very easy to know your Exchange information. If a user puts that into their Exchange settings on their phone, and boom, ActiveSync is on and they're connected and they're able to get corporate email down to their personal device. So you want to be able to have a policy in place to go ahead and to manage those devices. You want to put in a multi-platform discovery tool. So you want to know what's out in your environment. It's very not that easy to do that in Exchange today. You need to go in and drill down into each mailbox to figure out who has a mobile device assigned to that mailbox. So with an MDM tool, you'd be able to go ahead and discover what's out there in your ActiveSync environment. You also want to be able to establish a quarantine policy and approval workflow. So with Exchange 2010, you can do this today. You can set up auto quarantine. So if a user does try to connect to your Exchange environment via ActiveSync on their device, they will get put into a quarantine state. You'll get an email, and you can go in and approve or deny them. Now, with 2007, you can't do that. With our MAS 360 platform, we do integrate that and give you that ability to do that if you are running Exchange 2007. So you can really get a good handle as to who's coming into your Exchange environment. One of the most important ones is to enforce the basic security precautions in the policy. So you want to make sure that you have a password pushed down to that device that requires a passcode. You want to be able to remotely wipe that device if the user loses it or it gets stolen. And then also, you want to make sure that that device is encrypted so none of your data is at risk. And a little bit later, we'll show some tools here that will help IT with this. A couple more best practices. Policy around Bluetooth should also be enforced. You want to make sure that it's hidden or non-discoverable. If you have a device that's discoverable, it's very easy for a PC to scan that and find that and potentially download private data. So you want to make sure it's set to non-discoverable mode. And then you also want to start planning for a MDM mobile device management solution. So whether it's an MDM platform that can manage all of your devices, so your laptops, your tablets, and all of your different smartphones that are coming in, you want to also make sure that there's a good reporting and inventory tool. So at a quick glance, you can see what's going on and pull out that information when you need to. And you also want to consider a cloud-based MDM solution. Less setup, less work on your side. Keep it all up there in the cloud so you can access it anytime, anywhere. And then you also want to make sure you want to get into the habit of reporting on and discussing mobile device inventory and also policy status in your IT operations review to make sure everyone's on the same page. So what's out there today? There's a couple of different ways that you can manage your mobile devices today. One of them would be your Outlook Web Access, which we'll dive into a little bit deeper here, Microsoft Exchange ActiveSync, and then the iPhone configuration utility. So Outlook for Web Access, so currently it allows you to do a remote wipe of the device. You can display a recovery password, and you can also retrieve the log files for a device. So for the iPhone and the iPad, they both support the remote wipe. So this allows you allows the user to be able to go ahead and wipe a device if it was lost or stolen, or it allows the IT admin to take action on that device as well. For the Exchange ActiveSync policies, what can you actually do within those policies? So for a couple examples, what you can do, you can enforce a password on that device and then include perimeters around that password. So if you wanted to make it a complex password, the minimum characters, and then you can also set the inactivity time before the device locks and requires that password to be entered. 2007 and 2010, you're able to have a little bit more complex password settings around that policy. You can have the password expire, not use certain passwords within the history, and then you can also allow or disallow the camera as an example, or you can also do a requirement of the device encryption. So within Exchange ActiveSync, they have mailbox policies, which they call Exchange ActiveSync mailbox policies. What you can do here is you can actually create a policy and manage your mobile devices within that policy. So this is just a couple screenshots of how you get to that part in Exchange. So the first part would be to go to the client access, and then you can create a policy.
Hey, one thing, we're going to do a webinar, our next webinar, which is going to be in 2 weeks, is going to be on advanced management of mobile devices with Exchange 2007 and 2010. So Val Hetrick's going to be giving that, and we'll be going into a lot more detail around how you can manage mobile devices through Exchange.
So you can see once you create the mailbox policy name, which you want to make it something that gives a good description of what the policy is. And here you can set the parameters for the passcode that we talked about, the password length, simple passcode, the expiration, etc. And then once that policy is created, you can go ahead and then it will display here in the client access configuration container, and then you can go back into that, into a mailbox in your Exchange environment, and if ActiveSync is enabled, you can then go into the properties of that and set the ActiveSync policy for that particular user. So if you go to the next slide, you can see that we put this user in that default policy that we created for our ActiveSync users. And this is also how you would go into the properties to find out what Exchange policy they're currently in. So you kind of have to do a lot of digging within Exchange itself.
So it definitely seems a little convoluted with Exchange, and it is, and essentially that's just a legacy of the fact that they're trying to do mobile device management at a mailbox level in a system that was really built for messaging. And so it's not quite a natural fit. And there's some real gotchas with mobile device management when you rely on Exchange ActiveSync, and it's important to know what they are, and that's really what kind of the theme for the webinar in 2 weeks is about, is to make sure people understand that while you certainly can do MDM through Exchange, there are some things to be careful about and some things that probably in the long run will mean that it's not going to serve your needs, and that there's other options for how to do it, and that's really what the theme of that particular webinar is.
So the next tool is the iPhone configuration utility. So this really lets you easily create, you can encrypt and install configuration profiles on your devices, as well as provisioning profiles and apps, and you can also gather console logs from it as well. So from this slide here, we give you a couple of links that you can download the iPhone configuration utility, and also there is some great documentation on that as well from Apple's website. And then also on our Master Center, there's a video that really goes into a lot of detail as to how you can use that iPhone configuration utility.
Yeah, and it's actually a video Donna did, and it's actually hosted up on YouTube, and we just have it embedded in our forum. But if you go to YouTube and type in iPhone config utility, you will soon hear Donna's voice.
So just to give you a quick screenshot of what the iPhone configuration utility looks like, you can see here, you can go in and you can configure all of your passcode restrictions, Wi-Fi, you can set up Exchange email settings on there as well, and then once you generate the profile, you could either email that to your users, or you could you need to physically plug the phone into the device that you created the profile on and bring it there and export it. So we wanted to go over what's coming from Apple. iOS 5 is slated to come out this fall, and it's also slated to have over 200 new features. So wanted to just kind of grab some of what they're calling some of the newest and most popular features that are coming out here. So the first one is the Notification Center. So if you're familiar with Android, you know about the notification bar. So Apple has integrated that into their iOS 5, so you'll get notified on text messages, emails, pretty much any notification that would come in, you would be able to get it that way now. The iMessage, you now have a new messaging service for all iOS 5 users. You can send unlimited text messages via Wi-Fi or 3G from the iPad, iPhone, iPod Touch, etc., to anyone with one of those devices as well. It's built into the messaging app, so you can send text, you can send photos, videos, your location, etc. Reminders lets you organize your life in a to-do list. So you can set a due date and have it pop up and tell you. You can also even set a location for that reminder, so it can actually detect when you get to that location. It'll pop up and it'll give you your to-do list. So if you write a to-do list, to go to the food store and it realizes that you're there, it will pop up the to-do list for you. So that's pretty neat. The PC Free is, with iOS 5, you don't need to have a computer to own your iPad, iPhone, or iPad Touch. It's going to allow you to activate and set up your device wirelessly right out of the box. You can download the free iOS software updates directly on your device. You can do more with your apps, like edit your photos, new email photos, etc. And then you can back up and restore your device automatically, all within using the iCloud. And the iCloud is really a place where you can store your music, photos, apps, etc., and then it wirelessly pushes that down to all of your different devices. So if you have an iPad and an iPhone, you can easily maintain all of your documents, pictures, photos, etc. You don't have to do anything for it. It automatically updates for you, and even apps will become seamlessly integrated with the iCloud as well. So I know a lot of people are looking forward to that as well.
And yeah, I guess the thing for IT folks and security folks here is, a lot of these features are really end user related, right?
Yeah.
And so there's not, maybe the notification center has a little bit of a cross with what IT would need to do in terms of managing devices or users, but not really a lot new there. I mean, part of that is Apple's already very mature in terms of the MDM capabilities that are baked into iOS. So it's going to be a big event when Apple releases this, because I'm sure that they'll get their marketing machine going full spin, and there'll be a lot of news about it. But I don't think there's going to be a lot of significant things here that are going to change the model for managing iOS devices.
Right. one of the things that is coming as well is the volume purchase program, which might be good for a lot of folks out there. So business customers can purchase volume license for Apple software directly from Apple. So you can, once you purchase that volume license, you'll receive a redemption code per license, so you can download the software from the store. So a company can purchase an app, get the code, and then via an MDM platform, such as Maz 360, you'd be able to push that paid app down to your users without having them to be prompted to pay for it. Since it would already be paid for by your company, you'd be able to then distribute those applications across your users.
So they're really so that's pretty significant in the sense that they're really trying to enable the device as especially I think the tablets as something more than just a personal communication device where you can actually do something on the thing, versus just reply to email or peck out a quick message or something, or take a call.
Yep.
All right, so Donna, thank you very much for that information. We know lots of folks use the iPhone config utility, especially companies that have a small number of iPhone devices, and they kind of manage to do all that manually. But obviously, anybody that's operating at any kind of scale can't rely on something like that, and that is why MDM platforms exist, like Maz 360. So what we're going to do now is we're going to shift a little bit. I'm going to just quickly give you a little bit of information about Maz 360, and while I'm doing that, I'm going to open up our next poll. We're trying to get some more information, hang on a minute, there we go, about what you're currently doing around applications for iOS and Android devices. And while that poll's running, I'll talk a little bit about Maz 360. So this kind of gives you the basic capabilities of Maz 360 as it relates to existing mobile device management infrastructure you might have, like ActiveSync-based management via Exchange or Lotus Traveler, as well as BlackBerry, although RIM's having a little bit of a stumble right now. BlackBerry's still the predominant business device. And Maz 360 can integrate with your corporate ActiveSync infrastructure or BlackBerry infrastructure to allow you to have a unified management console for managing all of your mobile devices, whether they're legacy Windows mobile devices or Windows Phone 7 devices that you're managing through ActiveSync, or whether they're BlackBerry devices you're managing through Bez, as well as these iOS devices you're trying to enable and the Android devices that your employees are bringing into the corporation. So kind of hopefully you're seeing those poll results right now. And I'm going to open up our last poll right now. And what Maz 360 is focused on is those kind of 4 core areas you see on the far left. Right, making it simple for users to get their devices enrolled and therefore for you to manage them. Making it simple via over-the-air configuration and management of the mobile devices, simple to take actions on the devices, simple to change policies on the devices over the air. Maz gives you a lot of in-depth inventory and device reporting, not just hardware, but hardware, software, and network. And Donna's going to demo some of that in a few minutes. And then, of course, the goal is to provide improved visibility and control to the IT staff. And, especially in this world where, let's face it, it's going to be a mixed mode world, right? I mean, at least for the foreseeable future, there's probably going to be, at a minimum, 4 or 5 major platforms for mobile devices that everybody's going to have to figure out how to support. There's obviously going to be BlackBerry devices, there's going to be iOS and Android devices, there's going to be Windows 7 devices, and there's probably going to be those remnants of Windows Mobile that haven't gone away yet, as well as Symbian and WebOS and things like that, which can be managed via ActiveSync today. So let me show you the poll results from the last poll. So you've seen those. And I'm not going to go over this slide because it's a bit of an eye chart, but folks always want to know, well, what can I do via Maz 360 to the different device types that are out there, and what can you tell me about them? So this slide kind of provides all that in a nice, neat capsule. So it's going to be in your slide deck, and you can kind of read it at your leisure. I'm not going to go over it in depth, but I guess that third column there, what's important to recognize there is that many device types can be managed via ActiveSync, including Android devices and iOS devices, as well as these legacy devices like Windows Mobile or Symbian, and newer devices that just don't have advanced management capabilities built into them yet, like WebOS and Windows Phone 7. So those devices do have ActiveSync agents that they can be managed through. And of course, MAZ, through its ActiveSync integration, can manage those devices as well. But what you'll see, though, is if you're managing those devices through ActiveSync, there's a limited set of actions that you can take on them, especially in the Apple and Android cases, right? So in the Apple and Android worlds, what we would recommend is that you do direct management of the device via MAZ 360 versus managing those types of devices through ActiveSync, because there's a much richer feature set that's going to give you a lot more information about the devices, as well as a lot more capabilities to manage the devices, as opposed to what you get if you manage through ActiveSync. And again, we'll be covering that in more detail in 2 weeks with Val. So that's it for kind of the slideware. What I'm going to do now is hand control over to Donna and make her the presenter. And she's going to log into MAZ 360 and show us a couple of quick things from one of our demo accounts on MAZ 360.
Okay. All right, so let me just get logged in here.
And folks, by the way, this is actually the production MAZ 360 platform we're on. We're not on a demo system or anything else. This is the same system that all of our customers are using.
Yep. So if we go into the reporting here, wanted to show you quickly the iOS hardware overview. So at a quick glance here, we'd be able to tell what iOS devices are out there in our environment. So whether or not they're employee-owned or corporate-owned, which you can specify in the device view of the device. What types of devices, iPhones, iPads, iPad 2, etc. What OSs are out there, so who's running 4.2, 4.3, and who's betaing the 5.0.
Yeah, so we're in the we're in the enterprise developer program, so we've got the 5.0 beta right now.
How much internal storage is on the device, what carrier they're on, country, etc. And any of these charts, you can drill down further into it. So if we wanted to see all of the iPhone 4 users, we simply just click on that, and it would bring up more detail on those particular devices, and then you can actually drill even further into that, which I'll get to in a minute here. But I wanted to show you the iOS software overview as well. This gives you a nice detailed report as to what apps are out there and who has them installed. So you can see 8 people have Pandora, and you'd be able to drill and click on that count, and it would pull up the users that actually have that software installed. So gives you a nice indication of what's going on. If you wanted to, if you notice your environment has all of these applications that you don't recommend, you can go into the policy and then actually restrict them and actually remove that. So if we do a quick search here for an iPad, I wanted to bring up an iPad here to show you the detail that you can pull from the device view. So if we pull up Brian's iPad here, so you can see it brings you into more detail about it. So what is the email associated to this device? What model is it? How much internal storage? The home carrier, etc. So you can also see that the device passcode is compliant. So depending on what policy that he's in, since he's in the default iOS MDM policy, it most likely is making him put a password in, so it tells you that he's in compliance with that. So you can see that he actually has a passcode set up on the device. And then what you can actually do from the Actions tab is you can actually lock the device. So you can send a lock request down to the device. You can reset the device passcode. You can do a selective wipe, so that will remove any of the corporate data on the device that we push down via the policy. So email, Wi-Fi settings, VPN. You can do a full wipe of the device back to factory default settings. So if the device gets lost or stolen and you want to do a wipe, you can do a complete wipe that way. Change which policy it's in. And then you can actually, we have a enterprise and a app store where you can push out your own applications, or you can actually push out iTunes applications as well if you wanted to push that out to the device.
And one thing that's kind of nice about MAS, so all the actions you can take against a device are listed right in this drop-down off this Actions tab. And, you know, it's all dynamic based on how we're managing the device, right? So these are the allowed actions against an iPad that's being managed directly through the iOS MDM APIs. Now, we could also be managing Brian's iPad through Exchange ActiveSync. Mm-hmm. And if we were, and you selected the device, you'd see a different set of actions that reflect what's capable via Exchange ActiveSync.
Right. So you're restricted in that it's only really a wipe and changing the password. So if we go into the security and compliance here, we can see some more information, what profiles are actually laid down on the device. If it was attempted wipe, it's in compliance. And you can also see here for the hardware encryption, so you can see that this is a block level and file level encrypted device since that's already built into the iOS platform. Again, you can also pull what specific software is installed on here as well. So the other piece I wanted to show quickly was the iOS policy. So you can actually set up an iOS policy here to go ahead and control your devices and restrict certain applications, enforce passcode, etc. So if we look for you'll see some Exchange ActiveSync policies in here as well. So let's go to the grab an iOS policy here. So if I go to this policy, you'll notice that it looks very familiar to the iPhone configuration utility. So whatever Apple allows us to do remotely, we are constantly upgrading and integrating that into our platform. So again, for the passcode restriction, now you'll get a lot more information on this and restrictions that you can do as compared to Exchange. You can actually block certain applications on the device. So if you wanted to block Safari or the use of iTunes or the camera, you would simply uncheck that, and it would actually just go ahead and remove that completely from the device, and the user would not be able to get to it. You can push down Wi-Fi and VPN profiles to the device, so if your users didn't necessarily know, or you didn't want to give them all of the corporate information for any type of VPN or Wi-Fi profiles that you have, you can simply just push it down and prompt them for their credentials. You can push down the Exchange ActiveSync settings. So again, anything that you set up in this policy and push down to a device, let's say that the user has their own corporate or their own employee-owned device and they leave the company. If you just wanted to pull all the corporate stuff off of that device, email, contacts, calendar, VPN, Wi-Fi, you can just do a selective wipe with our MAS 360 platform instead of doing a full wipe of the device, which the user probably wouldn't want you to do anyway. And then lastly, web clips, so you can push down an actual web clip to a device if you have an intranet site or a particular website or a help desk number that you wanted to push down to your users. It would get laid down on the desktop of the device, and they could simply click on it and it would take them there. And then you also get the advanced features and functionality that you get with the iPhone configuration utility as well, if there's deeper integration that you're looking to do within your environment.
One last thing, Donna, I'd ask you to show. Can you just go to the kind of the main device view?
Sure.
View all devices. So, what you're going to see now, folks, is kind of an example of, what we think is one of the core value propositions of the platform, MAS 360, which is a single console to get inventory information and be able to take actions on your entire set of mobile devices. So, this is a true production account, and, these are all folks who are employees of FiberLink who happen to use this specific account that we demo out of as well. But you can see here There's all kinds of things in here. There's, frankly, there's Lenovo laptops, which we can also manage through MAS 360. We can manage Windows laptops and Macintosh laptops. We can also manage Android devices, so you can see my smartphone there. You see iPhones, iPads, you see RIM, Torch, a MacBook Air. So you can just kind of get an idea of what the benefit is when you can see all of your mobile devices in one single unified platform and can take the appropriate actions on those devices or get the appropriate information about those devices, with a single click. So that's really what the power of that single pane of glass is, that unified device management. And I think it's kind of neat to see it there when you see this all in one place and you realize these devices are so diverse, yet they can all be managed through one place and reported on through one place. So
Definitely.
Thanks, Donna, for jumping
You're
over.
welcome.
So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take back control. We're going to just cover one more thing real quickly, and then we'll open the floor up to Q&A. Hopefully this is going to pop up here. Okay, great. So we got through that. Folks, if you don't know, I haven't said this maybe clearly enough, but I'll say it one more time. MAS is a completely cloud-based mobile device management platform. So you can manage iPhones and iPads and Android devices without needing to put any hardware in your own environment. What's great about that is you can try it very simply and very easily. Recently, Network World, recently meaning in May, published the results of a bake-off that they ran independently of the various mobile device management platforms out there in the world. And obviously, we were quite proud to be named the winner of that. And if you go read the article, which is easy to find, or you can contact me and I'll get it for you. The one word that they use over and over again is how easy it was to use MAS 360, how easy it was to deploy MAS 360, we were actually quite gratified to hear that because that was one of our key goals with the platform. So in a few minutes when we end the webinar, your browser is going to get redirected to a page where you can sign up to take an eval of MAS 360. It's really simple and it's really easy. So if you're still trying to get educated about MDM and you're not sure and you don't know and you just want to see how it's done, go take the eval. You'll learn. And it's a fully featured, fully functional MDM platform that you'll have access to. A couple things on wrap-up, then we'll jump to Q&A. I mentioned some of the upcoming webinars. I think I may have gotten us kind of my dates mixed up a little bit here, but on August 4th, we're going to be doing a webinar on advanced mobile device management for iPhones, iPads, and Androids with John Nielsen from our product management team. So he's going to basically go into what we call our compliance enforcement rules and our compliance enforcement engine and how you can use that to basically have MAS 360 take administrative actions for you as your mobile device statuses and especially their compliance statuses are changing. On August 18th, Val Hetrick's going to be doing the optimized management for iPhones, iPads, and Androids via Exchange. So that's the one I kind of mentioned a few times during the course of this webinar. So if you get a chance, please try to attend that. There's a lot of great information in that, and we actually did it in the first quarter of 2011 and had a lot of attendance, a lot of great questions during that webinar. So there's a lot of interest and good information there. So Donna and I are ready. We'll try to handle as much of the Q&A as we can. If you send it in via chat or via the Q&A panel, we will do our best to handle them. So first question, can I push documents to devices with MAS 360? So the answer is yes, you can do that. We have along with our Enterprise App Store, we have an enterprise document management capability that's built on top of Akamai, and yeah, you can push apps up to MAS 360 or upload apps to MAS 360 and then push them to any subset of devices in your, that MAS is managing that you want, any group down to an individual one. Can BlackBerry units be added to a demo? Yeah, they can. We will need to talk with you a little bit about how to get a piece of software called our MAS 360 Cloud Extender installed in your environment. It is the piece of software that integrates MAS 360 with your internal infrastructure, whether that's BlackBerry, Exchange ActiveSync, or Notes Traveler. But it is very simple to set up. So we can certainly work with you on that, and if you get in touch with us, we can help you get that set up. Wow, the questions are coming in so fast, I don't know that I can keep up with them all. So you mentioned distributing apps. Are the apps installed directly on the device, or is the user presented with a link to the app?
So if it's an enterprise app, that would get pushed to the device, and then they would go ahead and install it. If it's an app out in the iTunes store, they would get directed to the iTunes store and prompted to install it from there.
Next question, what ports are required to be open? So the good news here is no ports are required to be open. So the communication between the MAS 360 Cloud Extender and MAS 360 itself happens on port 443 on the SSL port. And I think at this point almost every company on earth has outbound access to port 443 open. So unless you've got a very unique set of firewall rules or some kind of proxy in the middle, it should work fine without needing any changes to your perimeter security. Can you export what appears in your reports as CSV files? Yes, you can. So every piece of data you see can be exported as CSV or an XLS file for use in other applications or for other things. Another question, can you disable a camera based on a location?
I don't believe that they allow us to do that yet.
Yeah, I don't think you can do that yet. And location is a bit of a sensitive thing with Apple. So the reality is Apple it kind of reserves for itself the right to use the location-based information that it maintains about devices. So while Apple may want to do something in that direction right now, they don't provide an API that third-party products like MAS 360 can use to do that. So another question, do you have a selective wipe for Android? If so, how is it done? Via third-party app like Touchdown? So the question is yes, we do have a selective wipe for Android. And yes, we do have integration with Touchdown. As a matter of fact, we did a webinar with the folks at Nitro Desk about maybe a month ago, 6 weeks ago, and went through our Touchdown integration. So yeah, we can do a selective wipe that will remove the parts of the profile that MAS 360 is managing, as well as integrate with the selective wipe capabilities that the Nitro Desk built into Touchdown for getting rid of the email profile and attachments and things like that. When dealing with employee-owned devices, how do you handle privacy issues given the data collection on these devices? Well, so that's kind of an interesting question. So with employee-owned devices, obviously, you've got a bit of a policy conundrum here in the sense that you're going to have to ask them to give up something to you in the way of the right to manage the device for granting them the privilege of using the device with your corporate resources. So, there is certainly this kind of trade-off there where the end user wants the privilege of using their employee-owned device to attach or use corporate resources, and they're going to have to agree to some set of either restricted use, like they're going to have to promise that they're not going to do certain things, and some of that you can enforce with MAS 360. And they're going to have to also probably agree that they're going to allow you to take certain actions on their device under certain circumstances, like if the device is reported lost or stolen, you're going to do a full wipe on it. Or if they leave the company, you're going to do a selective wipe on it. And so those kinds of things have to be, clearly spelled out in your policies. And I know one good place to get a start here is if you're not familiar with this particular organization, the Enterprise Mobility Forum, which is run by Philippe Winthrop. Philippe's got a great paper up on that site. I believe the URL is theemf.org. And he's got a great paper up there that gives companies a lot of information about how to think about constructing their policies, and I think even has kind of a template to help them get started for how to define appropriate policies for things like employee-owned devices. Another question, can you reset passwords on iOS devices?
So, yeah, so what iOS allows us to do remotely is it will send a reset of the passcode down to the device, and it will let the user change the passcode. As the administrator, they don't give you the ability to change the passcode. You can do that with Android, though. You can, from our platform, they allow us to be able to administratively define that passcode.
Question about Notes Traveler and best practices. Well, obviously, we're familiar with Notes Traveler since we integrate with it. And if you go to the Master Center, if you go to our website, maz360.com, and go to the Master Center, you will find a webinar, a recorded webinar that we did about 2 or 3 months ago on the best practices for managing mobile devices through Notes Traveler. So I would recommend you, go to the Master Center and look for that webinar. If you're looking for some more information, if you have questions, you can certainly get them to me, and we will try to give you some more information. So another question, do I need to be part of the iOS developer program to get a cert to use your product? So yeah, this is good information to know because it really trips up a lot of people. So Maz360 uses, to manage iOS devices, uses a network that Apple runs called APNS, Apple Push Notification Service. And in order to get the right to use that network, each organization that wants to manage mobile devices using that network has to get a certificate from Apple that gives them the right to do that. And in order to get that certificate, you do have to join Apple's Enterprise Developer Program. It costs $300 a year to join it. It takes about 2 weeks from the time you apply to join the program until the time that you will be, approved. And then once you're approved, it's actually a pretty rapid process. So once you're approved, you can request your cert, and you usually get it back in a minute or two from Apple, so they've got that part of it all integrated. But if you want to manage iOS devices directly from Maz via the iOS MDM APIs, you do need an APNS cert. If you want to manage iOS devices through ActiveSync, you don't need an APNS cert, but you do need to have the Maz360 Cloud Extender installed. So I wish there was a free lunch here, but there isn't. Those are the two options you've got, and obviously if you were going to ask me which way to go, I'd say go get your APNS cert and get started, because you're going to want to manage things that way in the long run. You'll never be able to do things like push apps or any kind of location-based stuff without going through the without going through the iOS MDM APIs. So I'm kind of scrolling through here, seeing what else is coming in. There's kind of some questions about support for hosted email platforms. What I will tell you is this: we do have support that we actually just elevated this past weekend for Office 365. We would love to do Gmail, but Google doesn't make any APIs available for us, so we're kind of in a little bit of an arm wrestling match with their product managers about providing us with APIs that would allow us to integrate in with the Gmail MDM capabilities that Google's got. And if you've got more juice with Google than we do, maybe you can help us make that happen. So we would love to do it, but right now we've got support for Office 365. So question about asset tracking. Yes, you can use MAS 360 for asset tracking, and obviously there's a location lookup capability if you specifically need to know where the device is physically. But there's also a full set of custom fields that you can populate with your own kind of information, what department in your company the device belongs to, that type of thing, for kind of more sophisticated inventory management stuff. So there's another question, Donna, that I think would be right up your alley. Are there any support issues with Wi-Fi on iPhone and iPad devices?
No, I mean, they offer pretty much any connection, whether it's, WPA, WPA2, Enterprise, anything that you can do on the device, you'd be able to push remotely. So, have not come across any.
Great. Another question, can MAS 360 limit apps that users can install on company-owned devices?
So you can block certain applications from being installed, so yes. And then as we showed, from that list where we showed where you could block the camera, Safari, etc., you could actually block iTunes altogether if you wanted to do that, where they wouldn't be able to install any apps. Or you can actually go in and you can name a specific application that could not be installed. So yes, it would restrict them.
So next question, does MAS 360 require iPhones to have an enterprise data plan? No, you don't need any kind of cellular data plan whatsoever. As a matter of fact, you can manage an iPod Touch with Wi-Fi through MAS 360 if you really wanted to. And I think we have had a few iPod Touches over time in there.
Yep.
So yeah, as long as the device can get on the internet, either through Wi-Fi or cellular, MAS 360 can pull the inventory information and can manage it. There's a question about our pricing model. So our model is pretty simple. We're cloud-based, instant on, and the model's pretty simple. It's a fee per device per month in MAS 360. So you've got X number of devices that you're managing in MAS 360. There's a price per device, and that's the price you pay for it. So there's a question about managing laptops in MAS 360 and what types of things can be done. So, MAS 360 actually started life as a platform for managing laptops, so the actual functionality is quite rich. So apart from the basic inventory information about hardware and software inventory like Donna showed for the iPhone, we can also do the kind of the core management capabilities for laptop devices, push patches, push software, update antivirus definitions, and enforce policies on those devices, compliance policies. So there's a question here about that frankly I don't know the answer to. You may, Donna, or you may not, but I know this is a topic that comes up a lot, and we were actually thinking about doing a future webinar about it. Does MAS 360 have functionality to deploy certs to mobile devices utilizing existing Microsoft CA infrastructure? So the part I don't know about is our integration with the Microsoft CA infrastructure. I know you can push certs for user authentication and Wi-Fi and VPN down through MAS 360, but what I don't know is how integrated it is with the Microsoft CA infrastructure. So for the person who asked that particular question, we can we can follow up after the webinar and get you the answer to that part of the question. So so other folks are now chiming in about certs. So yes, you can manage certs through MAS 360. What I don't know about is the part about integration with Microsoft CA technology. There's a couple questions here about does FiberLink have a team that supports mobile devices, or is it the individual responsibility? So kind of FiberLink itself doesn't provide device management as a managed service. Now, we do have partners that use MAS 360 and offer managed, offer device management as a managed service, so if that's something you need, you can give me a call or contact me via email, and I can hook you up with a partner of ours that does offer that service. I mean, FiberLink as a company is really about building the MAZ 360 platform, right? So we're a software as a services company focused on mobility as a service, which is what MAZ stands for. And, we're focused on building the best technology we can for doing mobile device management. But we certainly have partners that leverage MAZ 360 platform and offer device management as a managed service for their customers. So we can hook you up there. So there's a question about, do we have companies using this globally? So the answer is yes. I mean, the MAZ 360 platform's been in existence for 7 years now. There's almost 1.5 million devices managed via MAZ 360, combination of laptops, smartphones, and tablets. And it's always been about supporting mobile users, and those users are all over the globe. So we've got customers everywhere, we've got users everywhere, and we've got devices everywhere. I think I've gotten through the end of the questions. So there's a question about how do you get policies onto a device. It's actually pretty simple, although we didn't show the full cycle here with Donna. What Donna showed was how to configure a policy and save it in MAZ 360. Once that's done, it's very simple to assign a device or a group of devices to that policy. And once that assignment is made, then MAZ 360 will automatically notify any mobile device in that group that it's got a new policy set that it should retrieve, and the device will automatically download those policies from MAZ 360 and then begin to enforce them. So it's really quite simple to get your policies enforced on MAZ 360. Well, folks, we're just, so another question, how do I get devices into MAZ 360? So that's a great question. So that's device enrollment. And one of the things that we get great marks on with MAZ is how simple it is to get devices enrolled. And so here's fundamentally the process and the way it works. You as an administrator can configure either a batch of device enrollment requests or an individual device enrollment request through MAZ 360. You can get the enrollment request to the end user in one of two ways, either through an email or through an SMS message to the user's phone. And in the email message, there'll be a couple of pieces of information that they'll need. One is a URL that they'll click on to get the process started. And then all they need to do is authenticate to MAZ 360 with a one-time passcode that's in the email message they got, and go through the process. If it's an Android device, go through the process of installing the MAZ 360 agent. If it's a iOS device, we download the configuration file, the XML file from that the iOS devices use to walk you through the enrollment process. And it's really that simple. So it's download and install the app, or download the iPhone, the iOS config file. User has to provide us with a couple pieces of information to authenticate themselves, accept the terms and conditions, of the software, and you're pretty much done. And within a minute or two, you'll see the device in MAZ 360. And this is the thing that I think is great about our model, is that you can literally sign up for an eval and see all this happen. And I mean, I've demoed MAZ 360 hundreds of times now, and we've gone from a customer who didn't know anything about MDM to a customer, or I shouldn't say customer, a person who knew nothing about MDM or MDM systems, to someone who's got a fully functional MAZ 360 account and has a couple of devices enrolled in it within 15 or 20 minutes. And so as I said earlier, it's a great way to learn about MDM if that's where you are in your cycle right now. We realize lots of folks are still educating themselves about the space. Another question came in. can you lock the user from uninstalling MAS 360?
So for iOS, you cannot. The user, we can't put a lock. They can uninstall the profile, and that's really a limitation of iOS.
Right, and so that's the way Apple does it, and so all MDM platforms
They want the user to have control.
are going to have this same, kind of issue. But you can use compliance rules in MAS 360. So we recognize that there's a security, kind of vulnerability there, and the way MAS 360 handles that is through what we call compliance rules, which is what our webinar in 2 weeks is going to be about. So this is kind of one of these advanced topics. So there is no way on iOS devices to prevent a user from uninstalling an app. Apple just does not give you a way to do that. However, what MAS 360 does is it allows a compliance rule to be configured that will take an action based on an event occurring. Now, an event occurring may be that you may configure a compliance rule that says if the user uninstalls MAS 360, perform a selective wipe or perform a block on the device or lock the device. And what will happen in that case is as soon as MAS 360 is attempted to be uninstalled, the device will get blocked or selectively wiped or locked because it'll be out of compliance with the policy. And until it's brought back into compliance, you will have essentially cut it off from access to corporate resources. So it's certainly not a perfect solution, meaning, perfect being you can't uninstall it, but there are things you can do that will maintain kind of the security of the ecosystem, even though you can't specifically prevent MAS 360 from being uninstalled. And if you want to find out more about that and see how we do it in detail, sign up for our webinar in 2 weeks, and you'll see how we do that. So that's a good question. So folks, we went over by a couple of minutes, but I assume that's good because folks hung around for the chat. When I end the webinar in a minute or two, as I said, your browsers will be redirected to a page where you can sign up for an eval of MAS 360, so I'd encourage you to do that. You'll also be getting an email in a few minutes with a link to the slides we just went through today, and there's also a link there to take the eval if you want. So I appreciate everyone's time. I appreciate all the questions. We love the interaction. You can see my email address and Donna's up there at the top, and feel free to reach out to one of us if you've got more questions or we weren't able to cover one here because we got a ton. So thanks again, and hope to see you all in 2 weeks.